The massive space station floated silently in the void between galaxies, its crystal walls glowing with ancient power. Inside the Great Hall, 12 different alien species sat around a circular table that had witnessed 3,000 years of galactic law. Today something was different. Today they were afraid. Ambassador Veldar stood up from his chair, his blue skin shimmering under the chamber lights. He belonged to the Zephyrian Empire, one of the oldest races in the galaxy. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he pointed to the giant screen floating above the table. "Look at this," he said, his voice echoing in the silent room. 40 years ago these humans were stuck on one small planet. Now look. The screen showed a map of space filled with tiny red dots. Each dot was a human colony. There were so many that they looked like a spreading disease across the galaxy. 73 star systems, Veldar continued. In just 40 years. Do you understand what this means? Most species take 500 years to spread this far. Some never leave their home planet at all. The other ambassadors shifted nervously in their seats. The Catharian representative, Kexmorth, was nearly 3 meters tall and covered in thick gray fur. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. "The biological data is even more troubling," Kexmorth said, pulling up charts and numbers on the screen. "These humans can live almost anywhere. Hot planets, cold planets, planets with poison air. They change their bodies with machines and medicine to survive in places that would kill us in minutes." A small, insect-like creature from the Hive Collective clicked its mandibles. "What about their reproduction rate?" Kexmorth's eyes darkened. "They breed like pest animals. 2 parents can make 5 or 6 offspring. Sometimes more. They live for nearly 100 years and stay healthy for most of that time. At this rate, there will be billions of them spreading across thousands of worlds within a few centuries." The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. In their long history, the Galactic Council had seen many young species try to expand too quickly. Usually, they destroyed themselves in wars or used up all their resources. But humans were different. "There's something else," Kexmorth added quietly. "Something that makes them truly dangerous. They seem to enjoy fighting. Most intelligent species avoid conflict. They find peaceful solutions or simply run away from problems. Humans do the opposite. When they face danger they get excited. They smile. Our psychological experts cannot understand it." High Chancellor Mordek had been quiet during the presentations. He was the oldest being in the room, representing the ancient hegemony that had ruled the galaxy before the other species had even learned to make fire. His voice carried the weight of 3 millennia of absolute authority. "I have seen many species rise and fall," Mordek said slowly. "Some were peaceful and wise. Others were aggressive and strong. But none have ever combined rapid expansion, biological adaptability, technological advancement, and a love of conflict like these humans do. They are not just dangerous. They are potentially unstoppable." The room buzzed with worried conversations. The Council had maintained peace for thousands of years using a simple system. When a new species became too aggressive or expanded too quickly, they received the standard compliance ultimatum. It was a formal message with clear terms. Stop expanding, give up all weapons and accept Council oversight. If they refused, the Council would send a military fleet to destroy their homeworld as an example to others. In 3,000 years, no species had ever refused. The few that had considered it quickly changed their minds when they saw the size of the Council's war fleets. "The solution is obvious," Mordek announced. "We send them the standard ultimatum. 30 days to comply or face complete annihilation. This has worked on every species we have encountered." Ambassador Veldar looked uncertain. "What if they refuse?" "They won't," Mordek replied confidently. "No one ever does. When they see our fleet strength estimates and realize we have been maintaining order for 3 millennia, they will surrender immediately. Young species always do." The vote was taken quickly. All 12 species agreed. The standard compliance ultimatum would be transmitted to Earth immediately. The message was clear and direct. "To the species known as humans, your rapid expansion across the galaxy threatens the stability we have maintained for 3,000 years. You have 30 standard galactic days to comply with the following terms. First, immediately stop all colonial expansion beyond your current territories. Second, surrender all military vessels and weapons to Council representatives. Third, accept permanent Council oversight of your civilization. Failure to comply will result in the complete annihilation of your species. This ultimatum is final and non-negotiable." As the message was sent racing across space toward Earth, the Council members felt satisfied. Another crisis had been handled with their usual efficiency. Soon, humanity would join the hundreds of other species living peacefully under Council rule. None of them suspected that in 30 days, they would receive a response that would change the galaxy forever. None of them imagined that somewhere on a small blue planet humans were already laughing at their threats and preparing for the most interesting war in galactic history. The ultimatum flew through space at faster-than-light speed, carrying with it 3,000 years of absolute authority. But it was about to meet something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that thought being threatened with extinction sounded like fun. President Park Jin-ho was drinking his morning coffee in his Seoul office when the screens around him suddenly lit up with an incoming transmission. The message came with a warning that made his assistant step back nervously. Priority alert, alien contact, all world leaders must receive immediately. Park set down his coffee cup and watched as holographic displays filled his office. The message began playing in perfect Korean, then switched to English, then Chinese, then every human language on Earth. The voice was cold and mechanical, but the translation was flawless. To the species known as humans, the voice announced, "Your rapid expansion across the galaxy threatens the stability we have maintained for 3,000 years. Park listened to the entire ultimatum without moving. 30 days to surrender. Complete annihilation if they refused. 3,000 years of galactic authority. When it finished, the office fell silent. His assistant, a young woman named Kim Sora, whispered, "Sir, what do we do?" Park smiled and picked up his coffee again. "First, we see how everyone else reacts. Something tells me this is going to be interesting." Within 1 hour, every news station on Earth was broadcasting the alien message. Park expected to see panic in the streets, people rushing to buy supplies, maybe even riots. Instead, he watched something completely different unfold on his screens. On social media, humans were already making jokes. Someone had created a meme showing the alien ultimatum with the caption, "When your mom tells you to clean your room or else." Another showed a picture of Earth with sunglasses and the words, "Come at me, Space Brothers." A popular comedian in Tokyo was already performing a stand-up routine about the aliens. 30 days to surrender? That's not even enough time to properly procrastinate. I need at least 60 days to ignore something properly. In London, a radio host was taking calls from listeners. One caller said, "I've been waiting my whole life for aliens to show up, and the first thing they do is threaten us? How rude. Didn't their mothers teach them any manners?" But the most surprising reaction came from military recruitment centers. Captain Lee Minji of the Korean Space Defense Force called Park's office personally. "Sir," she said, her voice filled with disbelief, "you need to see this. We have lines around the block. People are volunteering for military service faster than we can process them." "How many?" Park asked. 3 million applications in the last 6 hours, sir. And they're all asking the same thing. When do we get to fight the aliens? Park shook his head in amazement. Other countries were reporting the same thing. In America, military bases had to set up emergency processing centers. In Brazil, a group of teenagers had started a petition demanding that the government, please let us help shoot the space bullies. The most incredible part was that nobody seemed scared. Social media was full of humans sharing their favorite science fiction movies and debating which alien invasion films had prepared them best for real life. Someone started a hashtag called #AlienChallenge where people posted videos of themselves doing impossible stunts while shouting, "Come get some, space nerds." Park spent the day in video conferences with world leaders. The Russian president was laughing so hard he could barely speak. "Vladimir," Park said, "this is serious?" "I know it's serious," Vladimir replied, wiping tears from his eyes. "It's seriously hilarious. They think they can scare humans with threats? Have they seen our history? We fight each other for fun. Now they're giving us a common enemy? This is the best thing that's ever happened to us." The British Prime Minister agreed. "My defense minister just told me that our recruitment numbers for today are higher than the entire previous year. People are volunteering who have never shown any interest in military service. Grandmothers are asking if there's an age limit for space marines." President Chin of China was more practical. "The question is, what do we tell them?" Park had been thinking about that all day. As evening fell in Seoul, he made his decision. The world leaders agreed to let him speak for all humanity. They would broadcast their response from the same UN headquarters where they had received the ultimatum. Park stood in front of cameras that would beam his message to every human on Earth and then transmit it back to the Galactic Council. Behind him stood representatives from every major nation, all trying not to smile too obviously. "Members of the Galactic Council," Park began, his voice steady but with a hint of amusement he couldn't quite hide. "We have received your generous offer of surrender terms. He paused to look at his notes, though he had memorized what he wanted to say. After careful consideration with leaders from around our planet, we must respectfully decline your ultimatum. We appreciate that you have maintained galactic stability for 3,000 years. However, we feel that 30 days is not nearly enough time to properly prepare for surrender. We're still getting organized. The cameras caught several world leaders behind him struggling not to laugh. Instead, Park continued, we would like to extend an invitation. We look forward to meeting you among the stars. We're curious to learn more about your civilization and eager to show you what humanity can offer the galaxy. He looked directly into the camera that would carry his message across space to the alien council. You might want to bring snacks though. Based on our history, this could take a while. The transmission ended, and Earth waited to see how the most powerful beings in the galaxy would react to being politely told no for the first time in 3,000 years. Fleet Commander Zarthul had destroyed 17 civilizations in his long career. He knew exactly how these operations worked. His 50 warships would jump into the human solar system, blow up a few colonies to make a point, and wait for the humans to surrender. It usually took less than 1 day. As his fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system, Zarthul expected to see primitive human ships running away in panic. Instead, his sensors immediately detected something impossible. Humans were already waiting for them. Commander, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the humans. They knew we were coming. Zarthul frowned. His purple skin darkened with confusion. That's impossible. Our jump was calculated to arrive without warning. How could they detect us weeks in advance? The answer came through his speakers in clear galactic standard language. Hello there. This is Admiral Kim Suho of the Earth Defense Fleet. Welcome to Sol System. We've been expecting you. The human's voice sounded cheerful, almost friendly. Zarthul had never heard a species greet an invasion fleet with such enthusiasm. We've prepared some party favors for your visit, Admiral Kim continued. Please proceed to the coordinates we're transmitting. Refreshments will be provided. We hope you enjoy your stay. Zarthul turned to his tactical officer. What kind of weapons do the humans have at those coordinates? The officer studied his screens. Sir, I'm reading civilian cargo ships, mining platforms, and what appears to be a space station broadcasting music? Music? Yes, sir. It seems to be something called K-pop, mixed with traditional war drums. Zarthul decided this was just primitive bravado. Humans were trying to confuse him with strange behavior, but it wouldn't work. He ordered his fleet forward to begin the demonstration of superior firepower. The first sign that something was wrong came when his lead ships approached a group of human cargo vessels. Instead of fleeing, the cargo ships suddenly accelerated toward his warships. Sir, his tactical officer called out in alarm, those cargo ships are accelerating to 90% light speed. They're going to ram us. Impossible, Zarthul said. Cargo ships don't have engines capable of relativistic speeds. But the impossible was happening. The human cargo ships slammed into his lead vessels with the force of nuclear weapons. 3 of his warships disappeared in flashes of light and radiation. How are they doing this? Zarthul demanded. His science officer was frantically checking his instruments. Commander, they've somehow modified their cargo ships with military-grade engines. But the G-forces should have killed the crews. The answer came through intercepted human communications. Ramming speed achieved. No crew aboard. Remote control is working perfectly. Nice knowing you, alien jerks. The humans were using unmanned suicide ships. But that was just the beginning. As Zarthul's fleet moved deeper into the system, they approached what looked like harmless mining stations. The humans had been strip mining asteroids for resources, nothing unusual for a developing species. But when the alien ships came within range, the mining stations exploded. These weren't ordinary explosions. The humans had somehow turned entire asteroid mining operations into massive bombs. The blasts were powerful enough to damage ships thousands of kilometers away. Commander, his communications officer reported, we're receiving multiple surrender broadcasts from different human ships. Finally, Zarthul muttered. Accept their surrender. But when his ships opened communication channels to receive the human surrenders, something went wrong. Warning lights began flashing across his bridge. Computer systems started shutting down randomly. His weapons targeting systems began showing error messages. What's happening? Zarthul shouted. His chief technician was working frantically at his console. Sir, the human surrender broadcasts contained hidden computer viruses. They're attacking our systems through our own communication networks. Zarthol couldn't believe it. The humans weren't surrendering. They were using fake surrender messages to hack his ship's computers. In 3,000 years of galactic enforcement, no species had ever tried such a trick. But the most disturbing discovery came from intercepted human military communications. Instead of fear or desperation, the humans sounded excited. "This is Captain Park Miho to all Korean squadrons. Finally. Real aliens to fight. No more boring training exercises." Echo Squadron reporting. "These aliens are tougher than I expected, but their ships explode just as nicely as our simulations predicted." Beta Wing to command. "My grandmother is going to be so proud when I tell her I fought space invaders." Zarthol listened to dozens of similar messages. The humans weren't afraid. They were enjoying themselves. Some were actually laughing while they fought. He heard one pilot say, "My kids won't believe this. I'm fighting actual aliens. Best day ever." As more of his ships were destroyed by impossible human tactics, Zarthol began to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. These weren't primitive beings cowering before superior technology. These were creatures who had somehow turned their entire solar system into a weapon. Human defense platforms that looked like simple communication satellites suddenly revealed hidden missile batteries. Asteroid belts became minefields. Even their space junk was weaponized. Old satellites and debris were accelerated to high speeds and used as projectiles. After 6 hours of fighting, Zarthol had lost 18 ships and hadn't managed to destroy a single human colony. Worse, the humans seemed to be learning from each engagement. Their tactics were improving with every battle. "Commander," his tactical officer reported grimly, "human reinforcements are arriving from the outer planets." "Sir, I recommend immediate retreat." Zarthol looked at his remaining 32 ships and made the hardest decision of his career. "All ships, fall back to jump distance. We're leaving." As his battered fleet escaped the Sol system, Zarthol began composing his report to the Galactic Council. For the first time in his career, he had to write words that no council commander had ever written before. "Request immediate reinforcement. Humans fight like they enjoy it." High Chancellor Mordek stared at the report from Fleet Commander Zarthol with complete disbelief. In 3,000 years of galactic enforcement, no species had ever successfully fought back against the council fleet. Yet somehow, primitive humans had destroyed 18 warships and forced a retreat. "This is impossible," Mordek muttered, reading the report for the third time. "Humans using cargo ships as weapons? Mining stations as bombs? Computer viruses hidden in surrender messages? What kind of species thinks of such things?" Ambassador Veldar shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Chancellor, perhaps we underestimated them. Maybe we should send a larger force." Mordek's eyes glowed with anger. "Larger? Zarthol had 50 of our best warships. These humans shouldn't have been able to destroy a single vessel, let alone 18. But pride demanded action. No species could be allowed to successfully resist the council. If word spread that humans had defeated a council fleet, other civilizations might start getting ideas about independence. "Very well," Mordek declared. "We deploy Battle Group Omega. 300 vessels crewed by our finest warriors. This ends now." Battle Group Omega was the council's elite force, reserved for the most dangerous threats. Each ship was commanded by experienced officers who had conquered dozens of worlds. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything humans possessed. Admiral Kexthor, a veteran warrior from the hegemony's military caste, led the massive fleet toward human space. He had personally overseen the subjugation of 43 civilizations. He expected this to be routine. It wasn't. The humans had spent the months since Zarthol's retreat preparing surprises. When Battle Group Omega arrived in human territory, they found something that broke every rule of civilized warfare. Instead of meeting them in open space combat like honorable warriors, the humans disappeared. Their fleets vanished into asteroid fields, behind planets, inside nebulae. When the council ships tried to pursue them, the humans would attack from unexpected directions, then vanish again. "This is not how warfare works," Admiral Kexthor complained to his staff. "Where are their battle lines? Where are their main fleets? How can we have a proper battle if they refuse to fight properly?" His tactical officer looked confused. "Sir, they seem to be using what their historical records call guerrilla tactics. They attack our supply lines, hit isolated ships, then retreat before we can respond. Worse, the humans had somehow turned their own planets into elaborate traps. When council forces approached human colonies, they found that entire cities could suddenly reveal hidden weapons. Parks became missile sites. Shopping centers opened up to show fighter craft launches. Even human schools had been built with defensive systems. On one planet, Admiral Kexthor's forces landed near what appeared to be a peaceful farming community. The moment his troops stepped off their ships, the ground erupted with hidden turrets, the farm buildings revealed themselves as military bunkers, and even the livestock turned out to be robotic decoys loaded with explosives. How do they think of these things? Kexthor wondered aloud as he watched his landing force retreat in confusion. But the most frustrating part was how quickly humans learned. Every piece of Council technology they captured was immediately studied, copied, and improved. Colonel Cho Hyun-woo of the Korean Engineering Corps had become something of a legend among human forces for his ability to reverse engineer alien tech. Think of it as the ultimate puzzle, Cho explained to his team as they worked on a captured Council plasma cannon. They build it, we take it apart, then we make it better. Within weeks, human ships began appearing with impossible combinations of alien and human technology. They took Council energy weapons and powered them with human fusion reactors. They copied alien shield generators and protected them with human armor plating. They even figured out how to use Council faster-than-light drives with human navigation computers. The result was ships that shouldn't have existed. Human vessels that could outrun Council interceptors, outgun Council cruisers, and somehow required fewer crew members than either design should have needed. This is scientifically impossible, the Council's chief engineer reported to Mordek. Their modifications shouldn't work. They're combining technologies in ways that violate basic physics. Yet they do work, Mordek replied grimly, watching footage of a human destroyer outmaneuvering 3 Council warships. The psychological warfare was almost as effective as the physical battles. Human propaganda broadcasts somehow found ways to infiltrate Council communication networks. Alien crews would try to access tactical information and instead find human recruitment advertisements. Join the human navy, see the galaxy, meet interesting aliens, and make friends through superior firepower, was a particular favorite that appeared on Council ships throughout the fleet. Even worse were the cooking shows. Humans broadcast programs featuring traditional alien cuisine that was obviously just Korean barbecue with extra spices, hosted by cheerful human chefs who kept making jokes about tenderizing tough alien meat and recipes that are out of this world. Council morale began to suffer when alien crews started asking why they were fighting people who seemed to be having so much fun. After 2 years of what the Council euphemistically called police actions, Mordek faced something unprecedented: budget problems. The war was costing far more than projected. Ships needed constant repairs. Replacement equipment was expensive. Worst of all, other Council member species were starting to ask uncomfortable questions about why so much money was being spent to fight one primitive species. Chancellor, his finance minister reported during a private meeting, at current expenditure rates, we will bankrupt the Council treasury within another year. The humans are making this war too expensive to continue. Mordek realized with growing horror that the humans had done something no species had ever accomplished. They had made fighting them economically impossible. Admiral Kethvar had commanded Council fleets for over 200 years. He had never been captured. He had never even considered the possibility. Yet here he sat in what humans called a conference room, aboard a human starship, drinking something called coffee, and trying to understand how his entire battle group had been taken prisoner without a single shot being fired. The capture had been unlike anything in galactic military history. His 12 ships had been pursuing a damaged human vessel when they found themselves surrounded by what appeared to be empty space. Then the space around them had suddenly filled with human ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. Surrender your vessels immediately, had come the human transmission. You are completely surrounded and outgunned. Resistance is futile, but if you want to try anyway, we understand. It might be fun. Admiral Kethvar had looked at his tactical display and realized the truth. Somehow, humans had developed perfect stealth technology. His ships were surrounded by over 50 human vessels that had been invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. This is impossible, his tactical officer had whispered. Our sensors should have detected them. Should have, yes, Kethvar had replied grimly. But clearly didn't. The humans had done something unprecedented in galactic warfare. Instead of destroying the captured Council ships, they had carefully disabled them and taken the crews prisoner. But these weren't ordinary prisoners. Admiral Song Minha of the Human Space Navy had personally greeted each captured Council officer at the airlock. She was a small woman with kind eyes and a smile that seemed genuinely friendly. "Welcome aboard the Soul's Pride," she had said to Admiral Kethvar. "I hope your journey wasn't too uncomfortable. We've prepared quarters for you and your crews. Dinner will be served at 1800 hours ship time. Kethvar had expected interrogation chambers and prison cells. Instead, he found himself in a comfortable guest room with a real window showing the stars outside. His crew had been given similar accommodations. The humans had even provided medical care for the 3 council officers who had been injured during the capture. At dinner, Admiral Song had addressed all the captured officers with what could only be described as disturbing cheerfulness. "Honored guests," she began, "we need to talk. You've been trying to conquer us for 2 years now, and frankly, you're not very good at it." Several council officers looked offended, but Song continued with the same friendly smile. "Don't get me wrong, you have impressive technology and experienced crews. But your tactics are terrible, your intelligence about us is completely wrong, and your leadership back home seems to think this is still 3,000 years ago when everyone was afraid of you." She gestured to a display showing the current state of the war. "Look at the numbers. You've spent more resources fighting us than you spent conquering the last 50 species combined. Your own member civilizations are starting to ask uncomfortable questions about why you need such massive military budgets to handle one primitive species." Admiral Kethvar had to admit she was right. The war had become a financial disaster for the Council. "So," Song continued, "we'd like to propose an alternative arrangement. Instead of this expensive and frankly pointless war, how about we try cooperation?" She activated another display showing human technological innovations. "We're willing to share our advancements with the Council. Our stealth technology, our improved fusion reactors, our biological adaptation techniques. In exchange, we'd like access to your knowledge base and maybe some help with our expansion into new star systems." One of the captured Catharian officers growled, "Why would we agree to any deal with you? You're prisoners of war." Song's smile grew wider. "Are we? You might want to check your communication systems." Kethvar's personal communicator chirped with an incoming message from High Chancellor Mordek himself. The message was brief: "Negotiate terms. The Council authorizes full diplomatic authority. End this war." "How did you?" Kethvar began. "Oh, that," Song replied casually. "We may have accidentally hacked into your entire communication network about 6 months ago. We've been reading all your military reports, budget analyses, and internal discussions. We know exactly how much this war is costing you and how unhappy your member species are getting." The room fell silent as the Council officers realized the implications. The humans hadn't just won battles. They had been inside the Council's information systems all along. "Think of this as an extended job interview," Admiral Song explained. "Your Council wanted to see what we could do. We showed you. We can fight, we can adapt, we can innovate, and we can make very dangerous enemies or very valuable allies. The choice is yours." Over the next several hours, the captured Council officers found themselves in the strangest situation of their careers, negotiating humanity's admission to the Galactic Council while technically being prisoners of war. Ambassador Veldar, who had been part of Kethvar's battle group, discovered that humans were surprisingly reasonable when treated as equals rather than inferiors. They genuinely wanted to join galactic civilization, not conquer it. "We never wanted this war," Song explained during a private conversation. "All we wanted was to explore space and meet new civilizations. Your ultimatum forced us to fight, but fighting was never the goal." 3 days later, Ambassador Veldar found himself signing documents that made humanity junior partners in the Galactic Council, though everyone present understood that the humans had basically dictated the terms. 6 months later, the Galactic Council quietly changed its policies. The standard compliance ultimatum, which had been used for 3,000 years, was retired. In its place came diplomatic first contact protocols that emphasized negotiation over threats. In his final report as a Council ambassador, Veldar wrote, "Recommendation for future first contact situations. Consider asking nicely before issuing ultimatums. Humans respond remarkably well to requests but poorly to demands. Also recommend increasing Council insurance premiums. Working with humans is expensive but highly profitable." The war that nobody wanted had ended with something nobody expected: friendship.